Hello, welcome back to the James Ramblin' Reviews. So last week I talked about the first Hobbit movie, The Unexpected Journey. Tonight when you're watching this, I'm gonna be covering the Desolation of Smaug, and I'm actually pre-recording this because this is gonna come out a week later. As I'm recording this is actually on Saturday when the new James Ramblin' Show episode comes out. I just want to do that where I watch the movie and then a day after, so I'll review it just to get ahead and all of that. But yeah, the Desolation of Smaug, which is basically the sequel to The Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey. So where we left off in The Unexpected Journey was when the company of Thorin Oakenshield and Frodo and Gandalf and all that, you had all of them, and they went to go on that adventure and all of that. And then at the end of the movie, it teased Smaug, which would actually be the guy they go after in the second movie. So my thoughts on that is, right, the movie continues basically the book. It's basically trying to do the book in three movies, if that makes sense. Because I've actually, I'm going to refer to the book again. I've actually been reading the book again, so I want to get reference from the book to the coverage and all that. But just to give it another chance, because I wasn't really that into the Hobbit book. But I've realised that the things that are going on in these movies, they aren't translating to the book, which it kind of happens with some movies. But it just really is interesting because there is the whole movie. It's all about Smaug, but the biggest thing about this movie is it takes ages to get to Smaug. It takes ages to get to the point. So when you have this blow to 2 hour and a half movie, you just have a lot of stumbling around, right? For the first 40 to an hour minute, right, it takes so much time just to get to the point and try and get something interesting, because you have from what I remember, you have the company, the dwarves and Gandalf, they go out, and then there's this giant dude, and he's like this wolf guy, and he hates the smell of dwarves and all this stuff. And I said, the last person to leave this place will get eaten. Right? There was that actually at the start of the movie. There was they were in Thorin and Gandalf were in this bar and all of that. There's exchanges at this bar. You seen Peter Jackson at the start as well, so it made a little cameo. And sometimes throughout this movie, it actually lies for me because I was watching it on a website. Because I don't know because these movies aren't on Netflix, but I was just watching it right, and I got the extended cut version on the website. But yeah, there was all of that stuff there where they had to go through these certain points, and then there was the spiders, Frodo with Bilbo was dealing with the spiders, that kind of stuff. There was the acting. I'll give the acting some credit, right? At least there was some good performances. I think there was still really good performances in this movie, especially. The last movie had good actors as well. All the actors are fine, but the plot itself just meanders and meanders and meanders and meanders, and it goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. And I get the fact that Lord of the Rings was this grand, giant scale of events and stuff like that. But when you have a movie that is trying to do a book throughout 3 movies by, just putting Smaug as a teaser at the start, then taking 2.5 hours to get to Smaug, and then I assume in the Battle of Five Armies, you're gonna see the crew just defeat Smaug at the end. So basically, you barely get to see Smaug at all throughout this trilogy, if that makes any sense, But that's my biggest complaint, is it just derails itself from the point, and it just tries to just shove all these scenes at you, just shove, 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 shove. It just shoves itself with all these different scenes, and it's just really, you could have just made this shorter. And there was also you had the elves and all that as well, but there was also the barrows, right? And they went into the town, right? The barrows is when they went into the elves, because they stole, the thing was, right, they got into this, the orcs were actually trying to chase the dwarves, Gandalf and Bilbo, around, and then there's the giant guy as well, and there's Radagast. Radagast is actually barely mentioned in the Hobbit book. He's just like, he is just mentioned about, like, he's just mentioned briefly, I guess, but in the Silmarillion, he has more of a presence in some chapters and all that stuff. But yeah, like, they had the orcs were coming after them, and then they had to find a way to get there, and then they realised, right, like the elves knew about what was going on, and then they took them into the place that the elves are at, the Elven Council or the building or whatever, and all that. And Frodo actually had, not Frodo, Bilbo. I keep saying Frodo, right? I think the thing is they're just kind of like similar names and they're similar characters, I guess. But yeah, Bilbo had the ring on, and he was invincible basically. And then they all actually got imprisoned in their fortress basically, or their place. And then Frodo actually got the keys. Frodo got the keys of the off of the elf leader guy, and then like that happened, and then you also have Tauriel, and Legolas actually comes into it as well, right? Right, the de-aging on that guy is not the best, but you know they tried, because the elves they try to be faithful to the books. At the same time, though, they're not really as faithful as Lord of the Rings, because Peter Jackson, they barely like the production. I've heard about the production, how that due to the production issues and that kind of stuff, they rushed a lot of this stuff, because Lord of the Rings took 4 years to produce or make, like behind the scenes and stuff like that. But this took about, I think, 254 days. So it took about 8 months, right, or something like that. So it's about 3 to 8 months, or somewhere in there. So they tried to meander around, and you can definitely tell that. And then there was also like there was an original cut with the movies, right? Where it was only the original plan was there was only going to be two movies, but they ended up being three, and I think that is what happened. But due to how this movie, these movies, they aren't as grand as say Lord of the Rings, because they try too hard to just shove these scenes into it. It's like they dragged on and on and on. And I will say that the battle scene is okay, right? Like, it just does it. But will I say, do I still think it has that childish tone that the first movie was trying to portray to go off of the books? There is still a bit of that. Like, there's definitely still a bit of that, because the whole Tauriel exchange, right, where basically Tauriel and Kelly, which is this other dwarf, right, they have a love exchange kind of thing. Like, she's kind of like the love interest, and I think like what's her name, Evangeline Lilly, Evangeline Lilly, who actually played the Wasp in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but she didn't actually want. The deal was that she actually didn't want to have this love triangle, and that was a part of the contract and everything. But it actually turned out that she actually had to be the love interest, which if you look at the books, or the book, like, it doesn't make sense, because Tauriel is never mentioned. She reminds me of Arwen. Like, that's one thing I've noticed. Like, she reminds me of Arwen from Lord of the Rings, because she has similar all that stuff. I think that was a nostalgia key to some extent. It was just to throw something in there, right? They just kind of like hold it in. They just went, yeah, let's just do it anyway, because we don't have a lot to work with. So why don't we just throw Tauriel? Yes, jank it in there, because why not? And so you can tell, right, that progressively my thoughts on the Hobbit movies, they get worse, right? Because let's be honest, like, the movies aren't actually as good as I remember now. So I guess that's kind of it there. It's probably the first time, and like I've actually criticised something to this level of degree. What would I give it out of 10? A 5 or a 6. And yeah, like I was saying with Smaug, the whole Smaug thing, yeah, that why did it have to be that way? that was the weakest decision in the movie itself, and his dialogue just feels generic. And I think like he's just this. I describe Smaug as this big, gloopy, gloopy doopy, greedy dragon who basically just wants anyone who messes with his gold. Basically, he goes after him. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the review. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, Anchor, and stuff like that. See you next week for the Battle of the Five Armies review, which I will actually pre-record as well to get ahead of time. So yeah, see ya next week. Bye 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 bye.